Welcome to episode number 3.
Yeah, with Fruitful Ever After. This is Brian and Shannon.
Shannon, I have a question for you.
Sure, let's hear it. What's so funny about this question? Let's hear it.
Do you love me?
Of course. Of course I do.
I have a follow-up question to that.
Okay.
Do I need to earn that love?
No. I'm called to unconditionally love you, aren't I? I'm your wife.
Yes, but something more important for me, do you respect me?
Absolutely.
Well, here's another follow-up question. Can I ask you one more?
Yeah.
Do I have to earn that respect?
No. But you know what? There are people in this world that would argue that some should have to earn respect.
Let's dive into that.
Yeah, episode 3, Unconditional Respect.
Are you ready? Hi, folks, and welcome to the Fruitful Ever After podcast with Brian and Shannon. Newlyweds, but not new to marriage. We are exposing our journey to living fruitful ever after and why it matters to you.
We both know the pains of divorce and come together with wisdom and embrace our second chance at doing life and relationship God's way. We are a husband and wife duo on a mission to serve the Lord.
In these episodes, you'll hear stories, receive life skills, perspective, and biblical commentary to enhance your personal and relational growth.
Whether you are single or dating, married or divorced, forget your happily ever after and join us on this journey to find wholeness and fulfillment.
Welcome to our show. Do I have to earn respect?
In human terms, it makes sense to have to earn it, right? But to think of it in a new light, we know that we can only achieve certain things through Christ. And so loving unconditionally is one of those things. I don't think we as humans are capable of loving each other truly unconditionally in all circumstances at all times. But one of the ways that we can get closer to shining that way for someone, unconditional respect. I really truly want to show you, Brian, my unconditional love. I want to show our kids unconditional love. Jesus, God himself, he loves us unconditionally. And like I said, we as humans can't fully, truly do that without his help. But we do have a choice. We can choose how to respect other people. And if we unconditionally respect others, that does show a huge level of love.
One of the things that you do extremely well is you constantly, and I emphasize constantly remind me of, is that you respect me. This is one of those things that men need to hear. And Shannon does a great job of constantly reminding me.
Thank you. I was like kind of worried. I'm like, you're not a forgetful person. I don't have to remind you anything. You're not my kid. You're my husband. You're my partner. You're my equal.
But you tell me you respect me so many times throughout the week. And that is one of our love languages that we both have, is words of affirmation. That is in our top categories of our love language. So what that means to me and what that means to most men out there, if men had a choice between hearing I love you and I respect you, overwhelmingly they want to hear I respect you for what value they bring to the table. And that's not to dissuade anybody from respecting women, but I'm speaking solely from the man's perspective. When Shannon says she loves me, I believe that she loves me. But when she says I respect you, it reinvigorates me to go out and conquer the world. It makes me feel like a king. Makes me feel like a man. That's what it makes me feel like.
And as a man, as a leader, I want you to feel that way. That's how God created you. And he sees you that way. He wants you to be confident in the choices that you're making, especially if your choices are aligning with God's will for your life.
So respect and leadership kind of go hand in hand. They walk hand in hand. So by you affirming that you respect me, it allows me to be the leader that God has called me to be. And guys, that's not something that has always been in my life.
Yeah, there are a lot of ways to show someone that you respect them without saying it flat out. There's ways that I like to show it. And one of the biggest ways is by always letting you finish your thoughts. You're always speaking. I will never cut you off in the middle of a sentence or interrupt your feelings if you're sharing them or tell you how to think or feel, because that's your experience. And who am I to tell you how to think or feel?
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And now I want to share a quick story about very early on in our relationship where you chose not to say the words "I respect you," but you respect the emotions that I'm going through. And I think you're going to pick up on this very easily. We're in Sheboygan. We just put the boat in the water. This is the first year of ownership with this boat. I don't know a lot about it. And I see water coming in from what used to be the freshwater intake for the generator.
Oh, yes. We were dating at this point. I remember that day.
So as I'm new to owning a big boat, it was leaking water in, and I was kind of freaking out. But I was internalizing it because we just started dating, and I don't want Shannon to see that, I can be brought down so easily. But she could tell, and I'll let her tell her side of it. She could see there was something I was struggling with.
Yeah, what I was seeing is distractibility in a very stoic way. So he wasn't trying to hide anything, but truly there was some wrestling of thoughts and emotions that were going on within him. And so because I could identify that, I wasn't going to come into our date, because that's why we were there, actually. You had gotten the boat in the water, and I was meeting you up there because we were going to go have a dinner date and have a walk, or we were going to do something. But all of a sudden, then this project comes up because you got to tackle this task. And
so my boat doesn't sink, or so I thought.
Well, yeah. So there was no gushing water coming in. It was just a little bit of thin layer of water in the bottom, like, I don't even know if I'm using the right word, right? But one of them bilge. Is that what it is?
It is.
And so it's just like, okay. But I could see it. He's wrestling with this. So I don't know anything about boats. But I'm seeing that he's struggling with this. So I'm not going to minimize his feelings. So I surely didn't. I just let him wrestle with it, but stood by his side. And we couldn't start our date until I could see he could find some peace. So what was going to bring him peace in that moment? This time in our dating, early on, we weren't deep into prayer together or anything like that. So we ended up tackling the situation. We went to the store together to go get a supply that we would need for the boat. And reminding him that I'm by his side, but I'm not going to talk his ear off on our date. Like I want to talk, I want to hang out. But because he's wrestling with all those thoughts, what he needs more is just time for reflection. He doesn't need more to think and process. So me talking is not going to add to the peace. It's going to take away from it. So I'm here to be a helper, and I wanted to be of best help that I could be. We ended up getting the parts that we needed. We couldn't finish the task because we didn't have the right tools or something. So you decided, well, let's just have our date. We went on a walk then. We walked around, I think it was like a river walk or something. It was very beautiful.
Along the pier, yeah.
It was a very beautiful summer day, very sunny, and the sun was starting to set. A long time passed during our walk, and we didn't have to say a whole lot. We just walked side by side, and then eventually when you were ready to share your emotions a little bit further. And that was a beautiful thing for you to actually acknowledge that and then be able to share it with me. And it took time. I just was patient.
And we continue that type of relationship to this day. We've been together now for almost 2 years. Coming up in April, it'll be 2 years. And we continue to model that behavior because we believe that to our core.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when one of us is experiencing that inner turmoil, we aren't going to project that onto the other person. We understand that's an internal struggle, and we trust that the other, our partner, is going to stand by our side and just accept us for who we are, not try to fix us, but just walk by our side, whether it be literally or figuratively.
So, Shannon, you just heard, or our listeners just heard, a story about respect. And we gave an example, a story of when we put our boat in the water, and you just respected me by letting me sit in my emotions. And when I was ready to talk, then I opened up about what was bothering me. So one thing that you had touched on is, how do I show respect to you?
Yeah, I love that. There's a good story that I'm remembering that just happened not too long ago. We live apart, so our phone time is very precious to us. But also we understand that we both need time with our friends or family. And so I think that one of the evenings, something had been going on in my life that was a little heavy, and Brian was fully aware of it, and he was so, so sweet. I
I had a brief conversation with him between the time he went off exiting work before he left for his outing.
We had a speaker come in, and it was a very large event, and then everybody was going to go out to dinner afterwards.
That's right. And so we touched base a little bit. You kind of could hear in my voice it was a little different, and you're good at picking up on those cues. If something's heavy, my tone might change, but not at you. It's just talking about the situation where it's maybe just a little less cheerful.
Yes.
And I'm pleasant on the phone saying, you have a great time.
And if I could add, before she gets into all of this, there was never any pressure on me or any, I guess, guilt tripping, anything like that at all. She was very complimentary and saying, hey, this is going to be a great time for you. Enjoy yourself. This is going to be awesome. So
yeah. And in my heart as well, there's no root of bitterness when I say things to Brian, like, have a great time, tell me all about it later. There's not any underlying spitefulness or bitterness there.
And Shannon, before you finish your story, that's one of the things that a lot of guys are challenged on. And this is one area that I truly respect you on, is when you say something, you truly mean it. And in a lot of times, in a lot of cases in relationships, I don't care if you're dating or even friendship, and some people make a joke of it, but when you make a joke of it, you don't know when to take it seriously. So when women say something, but they mean the other thing, there are way too many TikToks, way too many Facebook Reels that people are being monetized because they think it's funny. But when it comes down to like a true relationship, it really hurts. So I apologize. I just wanted to add that real quick.
Yeah, and I'm cringing just thinking about that because it's true, not just women doing it to men, but men do it to women too, where there's this inconsistency between what you do and what you say. So I can spot someone who is genuine by knowing when they are aligned with their actions and words. So they say what they mean what they say. And I spot that genuine person, and I try to be that for other people as well, because that's so important. Back to the story now. Brian went off. We got off our phone call, and I had no expectations of reconnecting on the phone after that. Wanted Brian to have a great evening. Brian had his event, and later on that evening, I get a phone call, and it's Brian, and he's checking in on me. How's it going? I could tell there's something heavy on your heart. Can we talk about this more? And me hearing that from him and his sweet voice, like, he was genuine. He was being so sincere. First thing out of my mouth, how was dinner? Are you all done? And he responded with, I could tell I'm needed here. My event ended. I skipped dinner afterwards because I could tell I'm needed here. And he did. He recognized that. And like I said, I didn't have any expectations that he was going to call, but by him reaching out, showed so much respect. We had a really great phone call after that, and it helped me fall asleep that night.
So thank you for sharing that. And that is the mutual respect that we have for each other.
Brian, I was thinking about people who are truly disrespectful. How do we handle such situations when we ourselves are called to be, loving Christians? And it's hard sometimes to show that kind of love or respect to these people who are mistreating you.
Boy, that's a very tough one to answer. So, in my opinion, and it's just the opinion, there's only one way to handle that. And if you ultimately have respect for yourself, you can treat other people with that respect even when they are disrespecting you. But I'm not going to act like a saint, because I've also lashed out, whether that was with, a guest or with, my family. So I've done it myself. But ultimately what I'm trying to do is try to strive for just knowing how God would look at it. And that really helps me try to put things into perspective of the grace, the freely given love to us by God. And I try, and believe me, there's times where it's extremely difficult, but I try to pour that onto other people. But there are times where frustrations do come out, and it's very hard to manage that sometimes. So, being a sinful human being, what I try to do, and what I hope people will do, because sometimes I get frustrated as well, understand that that's not our core character, and that's not our core character value. It's something that we get upset about, or it's done with emotion. So when I try to rein it all in, I try to think about it before I just have a response instead of an emotional outlash, if that makes sense.
Thank you for sharing that. And what I was hearing too is, that reminder that even if we are the ones that screw up or lash out and are disrespectful, that God does forgive us. And we can start over at any time. And knowing that He has forgiven us, that we can then extend that forgiveness to other people. We will never look into the eyes of somebody in this world Jesus doesn't love.
Absolutely.
Hopefully that helps with perspective as we walk this difficult life where other people screw up and we ourselves screw up. We're just called to make a better choice, just growth mindset. Let's just try to be better.
That's a great way to put it, a growth mindset. And the time that we've been together and the time that we're in the Word with either ourselves or with my Bible group or you with your Bible group, that helps, I think, ground us even more into God's Word to try to understand that. So when we know what our baseline is and we can be grounded, level-headed, logical with our responses, the more we practice that, whether that's with our children, with our customers or guests, with our family members, or with people generally in public, that helps make us more grounded.
Yeah, great outlook, Brian. Thank you so much.
So, Shannon, as we're talking about unconditional love and respect, what are some practical ways that we can put this into practice, whether it's children, whether it is, people that you work with, your friends, significant other? What are some practical ways we can approach this?
Well, I love the frame of mind, always remembering that we cannot control anyone else except ourselves. So taking that into consideration, number one, we will never get respect from somebody else because we make them or guilt them into it or shame them for it or make them feel bad. We can only control ourselves. So we are the ones that have to deliver. And guess what? It's contagious, just like laughter is contagious, kindness is contagious, gratitude is contagious. So is respect. It needs to be modeled. And they out there, the people in our lives, do not have to earn our respect, contrary to what society will tell us. We as Christians believe we need to respect all people. That's one way we demonstrate our love. God wants us to love our neighbor, aka everybody else in this world. And we can't unconditionally love them because we are human and we are sinful. But we are trying to. And respect is something we can control. It's an action that we can demonstrate. So with that foundation, moving forward, there are some practical ways that we can show unconditional respect, and that's being mindful of the words that we use. And oftentimes that means listening more, speaking less.
Absolutely. And one thing that comes to mind when you say that is when you do that consistently. And when I mean consistently, unwavering in that respect, you are a person that people can trust and come to, not to say that you're their therapist, but they feel comfortable in being able to talk to you. And where that's very relevant and not just our professions, but our 6 children that we have together. And when we do that systematically through the years, it's going to show consistency and hopefully build a better foundation for our kids.
Yeah, and tying that all back into speaking less, listening more. I love how you said consistency, because if people can consistently trust you to be a good listener and to know that you're not just spewing out gossip and you're not sharing details of people's lives that don't pertain to them, they know they can trust you with information. So that's unconditional respect too. When you can guard the information that people can share with you in confidence, more people are going to come to you. So thank you for sharing it in that light.
Absolutely. Can you give us another example or another practical way that we can put this into practice?
Yes. Unconditionally respecting people when we are out in the world with strangers, for instance. If you cross paths with people and we're busy in life, and oftentimes it's at the end of the day and we might be crabby or just heavy with all the emotions of what we're carrying. And we may not think of it, but the people around us might be going through the same stuff. So if I ignore them and pretend they're not there and don't make eye contact and maybe just breeze past them or bump into them, that is not going to be helping to spread more joy and respect in this world. Make eye contact with people.
And for some people, that can be tough without any question. But where it can translate to is in your own personal life and with the people that you care about, whether it be your children, your siblings, your parents, or the people that may work with you or for you.
Yeah, how often do we just take them for granted in our lives? We cross paths with them in the hallway or in the kitchen or in the workplace because you're just so hyper-focused on task. When you're so task-oriented, you're thinking one-minded, like, I gotta get this done. I have a deadline. Instead of, hey, we're experiencing this world together. Making eye contact and a smile makes a big difference in showing that you are a respectable person. It might brighten their day too. So don't let those kids sneak away to their rooms without giving them a little hug, a little high five, pat on the back, or a smile with good eye contact. That'll make them feel pretty good. That they're noticed, they're seen. All people want to be seen.
And do it with a genuine heart. And that's where that consistency comes in. If you do it consistently with a genuine heart, you're going to see the smile on their face. No matter what type of day they're having, no matter what type of challenge they're going through, you're going to see it shine through.
And that's what I say to my oldest. He's 10 now, and I say, your smile lights up this world. Sometimes we get into those funks where we're not smiling much, you know? And when we do, it seriously makes a huge impact. And I think we need to remind others that, and it starts with us. We can't dote on the fact that people are being negative out there and aren't spreading joy. It starts with us. So I can't force other people to smile, but I can be the one smiling, and that will be contagious.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing.
What practical advice can you think of, either things that we've demonstrated through our relationship or that you've learned through this journey getting to know Jesus better as you've been reading through the gospel?
One of the things that I think of is in my professional career. So I'm technically in charge of, let's call it 20 people at the dealership that I work at. And I just got done with a leadership training on Wednesday. And one of the things that I saw is the word manager every time I send out an email. I actually just changed that on Thursday to service team leader. I would rather be seen as a leader than a manager. And what I mean by that is nobody likes to be managed. Nobody likes to be micromanaged, but they want to have a leader to point them in the right direction, a person they can come to with questions. So the old paradigm of top-down management, I throw that out the window. I flip that triangle upside down, and I, as a leader, I'm on the bottom. The people that work above me are my service advisors and my technicians, and I'm there to serve them. And I read a book called The Servant Leader, and we can certainly give credit to the author. But with a servant leader, it tells you how to lead by serving the people that work for you. And one of the things when I first came in there that I told everybody is I'm not going to expect you to do something that I wouldn't do myself. That means working on a car, taking out garbage, mopping the floor. It doesn't matter. I'm there to serve you.
Thank you for sharing that practical example too in the workplace.
We're going to dive into scripture now and find a Bible verse that'll support this. Romans chapter 12, verses 9 and 10. Don't just pretend to love others, really love them. Hate what is wrong, hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection. Take delight in honoring each other. Biblically, one more thing to kind of close things out, or another thought, when Jesus is speaking in the book of Matthew, I'm looking at chapter 22, verses 37 through 39. It says, Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. The second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself." So that kind of loops it all back around to, we all know that term, unconditional love, and we're called to love other people. And as hard as that is, I think respect is a good way to show action, put love into an action.
Love is something that you can say. Respect is something that you can say. But those are both actionable items that can not necessarily prove, but those actionable items help build trust within a relationship. And that's not just spousal relationship. That can, again, go across the whole threshold of kids, family, even perfect strangers.
Very well. Brian and I were looking at this last verse here in Matthew chapter 22, verse 39, the one that I last read. And it said, love your neighbor as yourself. And I wonder if maybe in a future episode we can dig into that a little bit. Love and respect. We are called to do that for other people. Jesus reminds us to do that as we do for ourselves. But what if we are lacking that for ourselves? What if we don't have self-love or respect for our own bodies or respect for our own self? Maybe we should dig into that in some future episode. Thank you all for joining us as we explored unconditional respect. This has been Brian and Shannon with Fruitful Ever After.
Thank you for allowing us to let you into our life and exposing our journey. In episode number 4, what are we going to cover, Shannon?
We're going to title this one, Living the New Life.
Awesome.
Christmas is around the corner, New Year's is around the corner. So we're going to take a little break and we'll resume our podcast releases after the new year. So keep your eyes and ears open. Likely it'll come around January 8th or 9th for the next episode.
You can find us on Podbean, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube.
This has been Brian and Shannon with Fruitful Ever After.
And we out.
God's blessings.